Hello, Internet. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Anywhere else this video may appear. My name is Samuel Huber from SamuelHuber.net. Huber Family Adventures on Instagram. Samuel Huber on YouTube. Samuel Huber on Facebook. And this is another segment of Heroes of Autism. I'm here with Russell James, who is a autistic musician on Instagram. He likes his autistic songs.
Autism.
Autism song. My bad.
Yeah.
And we're gonna learn a little bit about what it means to be an autistic musician. Russell, can you tell the folks a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I am 40 years old. I was diagnosed just actually a year and a half ago, but I've struggled my whole life. And I live in Corvallis, Oregon, which is about 2 hours south of Portland, hour and a half south of Portland, in the coastal region of Oregon. And I love the outdoors. I love nature. I'm a writer, not just a songwriter. I've been playing guitar and writing songs since I was 13. Okay, so I am a former psychotherapist. I have my master's degree in counseling.
Wow.
And I also have some PhD done, but I quit that shit because of my autism. It was just a little bit too overwhelming, and my program was actually incredibly ableist for a counseling education program. But yeah, so I have that experience. But yeah, I I jumped into the world of autism advocacy when I got diagnosed. I was like, we were pretty sure of the diagnosis for excuse me, for like 3 years prior to the meeting with the neuropsych and getting the neuropsych eval done and getting the actual like neuropsychological diagnosis done. My psychiatrist had me diagnosed as autistic back in 2017. But yeah, we didn't go in for the neuropsych. Well, we couldn't get an appointment for a long time because the neuropsych in Albuquerque there's not many of them. When I came from Albuquerque last year, I lived there, but I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is not far from you.
Yeah, I went to college out there.
Where, Millersville?
Hershey.
Oh, Hershey, okay.
Like Annville, like that little town.
Yeah. I lived in E-Town the year after I graduated college. Yeah, so we could probably sit there and talk about Pennsylvania Dutch, Mennonites, and all that kind of stuff.
We could. But before we do such a thing, can you tell what led you to want to be officially diagnosed as on the spectrum? Because like most people these days are diagnosed at age 2. I myself was diagnosed at 14. But why so late in the game? We're like, I need to know what I got going on here.
Clarity, and I was miserable. I was miserable, and I don't. I think self-diagnosis is a dangerous thing. I think it's fine, but it's also dangerous because people are not trained to diagnose. Even as a diagnostician, I was not trained to diagnose autism. I was trained to diagnose everything mental health, but I wasn't a neuroscientist or a neuropsych. So I wanted to be sure that that's what it was, because I'd spent so much time dealing with my mental health my entire life, going down the wrong paths of addressing it. And this time I wanted to be like, if this is what it is, then this is awesome. Finally, we get the thing that ties everything together. But I don't want to go down the coping skills road, and if it's not gonna hold, you know what I mean? Right. So I mean, I've been having meltdowns since I was a kid, but I have PTSD that kind of complicates some things and complicates the diagnostic profile. See, that's the thing that people don't understand about diagnostics is one diagnosis in the DSM-5 could look very similar to another diagnosis in an entirely different part of that book. And so the diagnostics can be really objective unless you go to a psychologist who really administers the neuropsychology test or the neuropsych testing. And my neuropsychologist actually happened to be the woman, one of the members of the team that recategorized autism for the DSM-5 in 2013. She's one of the doctors that did that. So it was really cool to get her insight on all of that kind of stuff. But that's not to say, like, if coping skills are working for you, then keep doing it. And, but I just needed clarity. I needed to be sure, because I had gone down so many paths, and, I needed to make sense of it, like autism was making sense of my life, but I needed that to be officially said that, yes, it does make sense because you are like this. I don't think everybody needs it. I definitely needed it. I definitely needed that. And when she pulled me in and I got the diagnosis, I was, there's a weight taken off my shoulders. Like, holy crap! Like, all this stuff that I got blamed for as a kid, all this stuff that I got abused for, all the school problems, all the problems with teachers and everything like that, my problems with my parents, like, all of it is this thing. It wasn't my fault. And it was just such a relief to have that.
Right. Basically, you really learned to understand yourself. That had you got this diagnosis younger, like, maybe your relationship with your parents would have been better. That they would have understood you. And
maybe they would have been diagnosed, in the early '80s, and they didn't know nothing about autism back then. What was known about autism was completely incorrect. I mean, when I started working with autistic children when I was right out of college in 2003, the viewpoints and understandings of autism back then are no longer valid. Even in 2003, they are absolutely not valid. ABA was like 100% supported by everybody. There was no controversies going on with it. Autism wasn't seen to be, it was like, I don't even know how to put this into words. Autism wasn't seen to be a productive person's diagnosis. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, because as also being someone on the spectrum, I went through a long list of, he'll never do this, he'll never do that. He'll be living with his parents his whole life. And even for the high functioning ones, like that, I have a lot of friends who are now in their early 30s who are still living at home because they believe that diagnosis of, like you said, a non-productive disorder, that we're basically non-functioning human being. But it seems like you have found ways to function within the world, and I'm guessing, like, what really helps you process your emotions and all that is music.
No, it doesn't.
For me, it's music.
It's really wild. Like, I know that seems like the first guess is like, well, music, that must be a really good catharsis, a really good, way to get out your stuff. And it's like, I have songs about autism. I have songs about my experience, but I also, when I write those songs, usually I'm more upset after I write them. Kind of like there's no release of catharsis or venting of anything. And when I play music now, I think there was a time I had this band in Albuquerque I was in for 8 years, and they're still around. Dude, you would love them. They're called the Porter Draw, kind of a country rock and punk band, totally jammy, and really bluegrass heavy kind of stuff. And I was in that band, and we were like, for like 4 years running, we were like the most popular band in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and had 400 or 500 people coming out to shows and things like that. And like doing that, like, when I would get done with that, my energy and my mood would be elevated, But now I'm on my own, and I just play by myself usually. Well, now definitely, because I don't have a band up here in Oregon, and I can't play with anybody right now.
No one can.
Yeah, but it's nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of demand avoidance with it,
Mm-hmm.
where I cancel a lot of shows that I book because that day comes and everything's all messed up, and I can't imagine getting on stage like I'm having meltdowns left and right, you know. And it's usually a lot of that has to do with pathological demand avoidance, that trait of autism. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think that it should be known that, like, not knowing that I was autistic really was detrimental in finding my way in the world, because I was so consumed with not getting picked on,
Mm-hmm.
and so consumed with just getting by, because I was being abused by my parents, being abused by teachers. I was a victim of sexual assault and abuse. And like, I was just trying to survive and not cause any waves, and just be the guy that everybody liked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my mask was heavy, for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, and it worked for a very long, well, it didn't work. It was dysfunctional because if I had known I was autistic, I would have pursued things at a lot younger age, independent pursuits. I became a philosophy major in college because everybody thought I was dumb, and I wanted to portray a smart person because I knew I was smart. I wasn't a dumb person. And why did I do that? Why didn't I major in music? You know, or history or anything else. I never got a chance to explore a lot of those nerdy loves other than like fantasy world and like sci-fi and like some of that kind of stuff that I'm really into and have always been. But like, I hid the fact that I read comic books from people so I wouldn't get picked on about it, and that those kind of things. And like, I think about it right now and I'm like, boy, I could have been a TV show writer. I love TV. I love, like, I watched DuckTales, the new version of DuckTales, and I'm like, dude, like, this, when I was like 10, this is what I wanted to do. Was like create stuff like this, but I was told that I couldn't do it. And the independent streak that tends to come with some Asperger's and autism folks is, it was lost on me because I was so focused on being part of the herd, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yes.
I definitely went through that myself. Like, anyone who knows me is music is like my passion, and everyone since like, why did you choose psychology in college over uh, music? It's because I thought, oh, psychology is a much safer route. People won't criticize my ability to play music or not play music, and I'm just now starting to learn guitar. Even though when I went into the studio, like, people said, you have such a great ear, you should be a music producer, which is what I actually want to do. But putting on that neurotypical mask, like you're describing, is definitely been my journey. So I can attest to that. But I'm just now finding my independent streak that autism has gifted me with. So if music's not your way to cope with what you've gone through, which sounds like a lot, and I'm sorry you went through all that. What do you do to cope and get your feelings out if it's not music?
Um, well, I have an incredible marriage. Number one, I married my best friend. Literally, like,
Oh.
we were best friends in high school, best friends in college, best friends after college, and then when we were 31 and 32,
Hmm.
we decided to get married. Like, I mean, we decided to have a relationship, but then it was very clear that it was going to end up in marriage. And so she understands autism and my autism in an incredibly comprehensive way.
Hmm.
And we're really able to debrief. We're able to, like, she gets it. Like, it's really cool because she has her master's in social work. So she also has a little bit of background, I mean, educational background, in psychotherapy. But she's a researcher is what she is now. But she's able to process in a really therapeutic way. So that's really big. Nature, just going on long hikes and going down to the beach and walking for a long time, or, even going out and doing photography and stuff like that I do on a much more amateur basis. And I'm writing a book right now, which I can't believe I just said that on a podcast or on a video cast, because I'm kind of keeping that quiet, but it's a book about autism in a manner. And so that helps. But I think the biggest coping skill I have is meditation. I'm very, very into Buddhism. There was a time in my life where I called myself a Buddhist, although I kind of don't do that anymore. But because I don't go to Sangha, I don't go to, but I follow the path as hard as I can mostly. And that is a huge coping skill, like being really mindful of everything. Like, so our mindful skills as autistics are natural. Like, they're there because we're taking in so much sensory input, right, all the time. So we're mindful of our environment more than people understand. Like, what we do with that mindfulness might not be what others do with that, what Aulistics do with that mindfulness, and maybe that's what I've learned to do, is kind of use that mindfulness in the way that somebody on the neurotypical side of things would use it. And that's just like strengthen my ability, my sensory input, and my ability to understand where I am in a set place, like my place in things, at a certain point in time. And it also allows me to be very aware of what's happening in my body and in my mind. So if there's like a meltdown trigger, that's like, I can feel a meltdown trigger, like certain thoughts that I start to have or certain actions I start to do, I'm mindful of those things. Like, I start to really verbally stim a lot when a meltdown is coming. And so when I start to verbally stim, I'm like, okay, something right now in this environment needs to change or you're going to melt down in an hour, and my meltdowns are hard. They're loud, I've broken a lot of things during them. They're not under control. I'll be the first to admit that. They were for about 6 months last year. I had my meltdowns like so under control, in a manner of speaking, although can you control anything? I don't know. But like, now, like, ever since this pandemic and the whole year, actually, I've just had a hard time keeping them together because I have not been able to get out in nature. I think that has a lot to do with it. We moved up here because we're 45 minutes from the beach, so we can't go there anymore.
Well, your self-awareness is very powerful, and I think and knowing thyself, as Buddhism is taught. I went through my own phase of calling myself a Buddhist and trying to follow the path. I couldn't get past the whole life is suffering bit, the first rule of Buddhism, because it's like, then you're just like looking at life as something that we're like just struggling through rather than celebrating it. That's what the Grateful Dead taught us about celebrating life, and all the jam music that both of us like. My next question for you is for the other older Aspies out there who weren't diagnosed or went through something similar to what you've described through your past. What would you say to ones that, is it really worth finding out you officially are autistic? And if they're afraid, how do you get past that fear of going in and figuring that out?
I would have to only speculate as to where the fear is coming from. But I knew one thing that I was really afraid of was, what if I'm not? What then do I do? All of a sudden, like, I'm not. We find out that I'm not, and I've been kind of putting hope in this thing to give me some clarity and all this. So that scared me. you know.
Mm-hmm.
I did it anyway because I just had to know, you know, that it came down to that. I think that is it worth it is a really subjective question for folks. Some folks, it might not be worth it because they don't have the finances to do this or the insurance coverage to get it done. Some folks, it might not be worth it because they are too scared of what it would mean if they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where would their identity then fall and that kind of stuff? And, you know, and I get that so much. I really do. I really get it, you know. And so I think that, like, was it worth it for me? Absolutely. If you're looking for like clarity and you're, you know, feeling, if you feel okay about being told, no, you're not autistic, I mean, that's what you got to let go of that attachment to that diagnosis if you're going to go in for a diagnostic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that that's scary, and there's nothing to do to alleviate that fear, I don't think. I think you just have to either be ready for both outcomes or not, or you're not, and then you're not going to go in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was worth it for me. It was worth every single bit of struggling. I went through this I went to an audiologist because I knew since I was a kid that I had an auditory processing disorder. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to an audiologist because it got worse as I got older. And we just wanted to see if there's anything that could be done. And I went through this stuff called audio integration therapy. Let me just say to anybody out there that gets approached by somebody about doing audio integration therapy, it is a scam. It does not work. There's no science behind it. There's literally no research behind it. I went and did it. It didn't do anything but put me through a lot of pain in my ears. But she was the first one to tell us that, yes, he's autistic, you know, and that was about 3 months. And she gave us the referral then to this really prominent neuropsych. But that was so expensive, you know, and our insurance didn't cover that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to go in for that reason too. Like, that was like $2,500. I had to do a charity concert online to get people to donate some money to help me out because I couldn't afford to have a musician. I don't make nothing. And so, which they did. They came out. I got these headphones from it. It was really nice because these headphones are probably one of the most important coping skills I have.
Yeah, it's important. I have my own, like, what I call my sensory bag, where you need your headphones, essential oils, whatever, just to help you function in the day to day.
I got mine right here next to me. I call it my otter bag, short for autism, but it has everything I would need if no matter what would go down, I'd be set for any situation. But, yeah, I agree. That's such an important thing to have on you. But yeah, so I don't know if it's worth it. I think somebody can only answer that question for themselves. But I think that talking with someone about it, you know, like talking with somebody that has experience with autism therapies and things like that, and is up to date, and, you know, like just having conversations with a therapist about whether or not you want to go in, I think that's good for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that's really a good way to go. And that's partly how we did it. I've been going to the same therapist for 6 years, and, you know, we've been trying to figure out everything. And, you know, she and I, like, we went through all this stuff well before I went to a neuropsych, you know, and we went over this, and, you know, I had to process whether or not I wanted it to be, you know, whether or not it was going to help me, you know, because I do have this other side of me, this academic clinician, my clinical side from my experience and my academic study, where I think diagnosis is bullshit. Generally speaking, mental health diagnosis is completely ridiculous because of how subjective it is to the clinician that's doing the diagnostics, you know, because I could have said somebody had a personality disorder and somebody else would be like, no, they're bipolar, You know what I mean? Like, and we could each make an argument and each be equally valid. You know, with
Yeah.
autism, it's very different in a manner of speaking because, well, it is and it isn't. Like, if you go in for a neuropsych eval and they say you have autism, you have autism. If your psychiatrist is like, you have autism, you might not. You might have, like, there could be a combination of a lot of other things that's going on. You know, so autism looks a lot like certain types of ADHD, as we know.
Or PTSD.
Or PTSD, exactly. Like that's how we found out, was because these meltdowns were happening, and I was like, I looked up PTSD meltdowns, and I started getting stuff about autism. And so I was reading the stuff about autism. I was like, well, wait a minute. My meltdowns are like this. They're not like these PTSD meltdowns. So that's where it actually came from. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that can complicate an autism diagnosis. So yeah, it's diagnosis. So I don't put a whole lot of weight in psychiatric diagnostics unless it's like neuropsychological diagnostics.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people need to understand about autism is that it's way more complex than just a label.
Oh my word!
That we are very complex. That many people, like I also have ADHD, nonverbal learning disability, and it took all the way till I was 14 to get diagnosed with Asperger's. But yeah, I think that's the hugest thing is that people need to understand that they need to look at our humanity rather than these labels that the so-called experts are putting on us. And you are definitely a living example of finding your own path and finding yourself, which I think is the biggest thing for autistic adults. Is stop living on your label, but live on who you are, and you know.
Well, there's a certain part of that I would disagree with, just that because I'm identity first. Like, autism is my label; it is my identity. You know what I mean? So I take a lot of pride in that label. You know, like someone calling me, you know, like talking about like calling me autistic or something. Like, yeah, I am. I'm really proud of it. It's the biggest part of who I am. It directs literally everything: my emotions, my behavior, my thoughts, my actions. Like, everything is directed by autism, and it always has been. You know, so it's just this locus of control kind of in my life, so much so that it's like I feel very comfortable with accepting the label and the identity of being an autistic person rather than a person with autism. You know?
Yeah, I 100% agree. What I'm talking about is I have friends who use it as a crutch to not accomplish their dreams. Oh,
Sure.
I can't be a musician.
Sure.
I can't be a computer analyst because my autism says I can't do that.
Right. Yes. And
that's
like,
what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm probably autistic myself too, and like how you said, it's like a nugget of who we are that control. And looking at it as a positive force on the world rather than
it gives you opportunity rather than takes them from you. I think
right.
we're both on the exact same page there. Yes,
That's exactly what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, it provides opportunity. When you look at your autism in a certain light, you can see that. You know, I look at some of the autism advocates that I'm friends with on Instagram and stuff like that, and you see a lot of them that have really accepted that. You know, notes from the physics lab on she's an autistic physics PhD candidate from the UK, and her autism is why she's able to be a physicist. You know, like physics. She's an experimental physicist. That is crazy, complicated stuff. Like I'm like familiar with it mid conversation, kind of. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like the most insane, you know, and my guess is the fact that she is on the spectrum aids her in understanding the calculus that goes along with being that level of scientist.
Yeah, we have like Einstein, Tesla, like those guys were totally on the spectrum, and I think it does give you the ability to look beyond the things that distract normal people from understanding physics, which is human emotion or social norms, which are total bullshit anyway, because social norms differ person to person.
Right.
And I spent so much of my life thinking if I broke one of these unwritten social rules that everyone would hate me. But then I realized later in life as I got older, it's all bullshit. As long as you follow the golden rule, is
Just be cool.
just be cool. Exactly.
Cool.
Do
Yeah.
unto others as you would have done to yourself. It's
Yeah.
like that simple.
Yeah.
And also do unto yourself as you want to be treated.
Right. Yeah, that's a real important rule for a lot of us autists because we don't treat ourselves like we want to be treated.
Right, and that's what I've learned to through my meditation turn the golden rule inward, because I know a lot of autistic people out there have trouble reflecting on themselves. Like, is these vibes my vibes, or are these someone else's vibes that I'm picking up on? Like, the ability to self-reflect is difficult for a lot of people on the spectrum. So,
Yeah.
so treating yourself the way you want to be treated is a great way to start being able to tell the difference between other people's bullshit.
Like you deserve it. Like you deserve it. You're autistic. You deserve it. You deserve to be treated with as much respect and compassion as anybody else. And like, it's it's really important, to like loving kindness, like Buddhism concept of meta meditation and loving kindness meditation.
Exactly.
It's like, I have a friend, an old friend of mine. We were talking about our meditate. We used to meditate together every Saturday morning in Albuquerque, and I had he was telling me that like whenever he was feeling depressed, he would go up into the Sandia Mountains, which are just like right out there in Albuquerque, like right there, and he would sit on a rock and do like 500 loving kindness meditation cycles, and just do them and just do it for 2 hours. And like, he was like, and I'd be fine when I was done, because you sit there and you focus that love inward, and that allows you to focus it outward a lot more too. And I think that, I think that's another thing that autistic people are told they can't do is show compassion or show love or care or empathy. And that's completely wrong. Like, autistic people are epicenters of compassion and empathy. We're too empathic. We get it too much. That's like one of the problems, is because we're so absorbent of everything, including the emotions of people around us, that it shuts us down. And we don't know what to do with it. We're too tired to do anything with the empathy. You know what I mean? Because we're so exhausted by it. And I think that was, I became a therapist because of the empathy thing. But I was, exhausted every day. I came home and I never had time to recharge.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that being a teacher's assistant for schools for autistic kids. Like, I mean, my autism allowed me to really understand these kids and help them. And now I'm an early intervention that's helping me. And then through these videos, I'm helping a lot of people. But it is exhausting. And I think the huge reason why is because a lot of things that people process subconsciously, we're processing it consciously.
Yes. Yeah.
Like sensory, like things that people process sensory wise is subconscious, but for us it's like, oh, it's a really hot day out here, why is it so, and then we're like analyzing the detail of why it's so hot, why everyone's just like moving about their day, we're still stuck on the details.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sorry, I'm reaching for something. Yeah, that's really smart. It's a really good insight. Yeah, I think that it's so frustrating because I know that a lot of autistic people, it's a huge difficulty to be self-aware, And I preach it to autistic people all the time. Like self-awareness, when you're self-aware, you get it. You know what's going on. Like you're in touch with your body. You're in touch with what's going to happen. You really, that's when you start seeing that autistic intuition really kick in, that whole like you can see something happening before it happens, or like you can predict something's going to happen. I do
Mm-hmm.
that all the time. It freaks people out. It freaks my wife out. When I was teaching master's level counseling students in my PhD program,
Mm-hmm.
like I would supervise them doing like therapy with their clients, in the therapy lab. And like they would come back and be like, okay, so next week when they come in, say this and this, and they're going to do this.
Mm.
And then you're going to do this to help out. And like they would be blown away by how I could predict human behavior so easily. But now, it's just autism, because I was so aware of what was going on, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware that I'm aware, I mean, that's like something that's very difficult to attain. And it took a decade of meditation, really, I think, for me to really to get to that point,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it's a good place to be because it's
Mm-hmm.
stops a lot of things before they start.
Yeah, it helps you turn your autism into a superpower, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's the superpower that we learned about in our comics.
Mm-hmm.
We have super awareness.
Yeah.
And I like to end all my interviews before we go to a 3-song set list by Mr. Russell here. If you could change one way the world looks at autism, what would it be and why?
That's a really big question. I should have asked you for that one ahead of time. I think that I would like to see the world as a whole understand autism as people who are vitally important to the progression of society. We're the ones who are going to see society go forward. We're pushing. We push, and we have a lot of value for that reason, and I would like society to understand that pushing the envelope is really valuable. It's a really valuable thing to do. And autistic people are really good at that.
I agree, man. Like some of the biggest people that shaped this world over the last 2 centuries, Tesla, Einstein, John Lennon, Tim Burton, all those big names, those were people on the spectrum. And people today, like you and me, are pushing the envelope, questioning things that no one was willing to or was able to see because of our superpower, our attention to detail. So I totally agree with you that we need our envelope pushers, or else the world will just be stagnant without us. And we've always been here. And I think just the more awareness the world has of us, the more we can be celebrated and accepted for the brilliant minds that we are. And I think that's a good note to end on. So, folks, this is the first musical performance on Heroes of Autism. Russell here is going to sing us 3 songs. Take it away, Maestro.
All right. One of the things, so as I go through these 3 songs, I'll probably interspace a little bit of commenting about the fact that I have autism, and doing this career, whatever, it is a career, is real hard because there's a lot of different little things. One of the things is I can't remember lyrics. Like I cannot remember lyrics at all. And so I'm constantly having to keep something. Like I have a big phone. My phone is like the giant size phone, so that I can I remember and I don't screw it up, and it keeps me from getting too anxious. So it's not the career for an autistic person, man. Honestly, it's you're surrounded by loud sounds. You're surrounded by incredibly intense sensory stuff, and yeah, so like the playing of the music, like this is great, but the like everything that goes around it, like traveling and smelling beer, like just like smelling stale beer and, you know, boozy breath and cigarette smoke and why is the stereo on louder than I am? You know, I hear too much. I can hear the people talking in the front row, kind of thing, and like, you know, it's really it's hard, man.
Yeah,
This is not that cheap. What?
I'm saying that's probably why you probably stim on stage to help regulate yourself while you're playing.
Absolutely, it absolutely does. Okay, so you can hear me pretty good. I backed up from the mic.
Hey, I can hear you perfectly.
All right, this is called Backseat Driver. Well, I'm on a road to nowhere. The only road I've ever known. It's like I'm on a midnight highway, but I never ride alone. I have a dark companion, whispers in my ear, only when he is shouting are the times I can hear. If only I could walk on water, if only I could move this stone, if only I could tell you something so you don't feel alone. Now he's riding shotgun, and I don't feel like anyone. All too often he's the trigger, I'm the gun. If only I could walk on water, if only I could move this soul, if only I could tell you something so you don't feel alone. Only I can make you smile. Only I can stop my hate. I wouldn't be a backseat driver. I turned into something brave. If only I could walk on water, if only I could move this stone, if only I could tell you something so you won't feel alone, so you don't feel alone, so you don't feel alone.
Woo!
So that's a new song. that's not out yet. It's not on an album yet.
I'm sure people will be bootlegging it for years. The first official version.
Yeah. Now let's do. So this next song, I don't explain what my songs are about. One of those, because I'm one of those artistic people who's like, well, like it's what you think it means, man.
As it should be.
Yeah, I'm pretty wide open with my with that stuff.
Yeah, that's how I try to explain the Grateful Dead lyrics to my wife. She's like, a rambling rose. What the hell does that mean? I'm like, it's whatever you want it to mean. That's the beauty of that music.
Yeah, don't even try to start doing Fish's lyrics. So this next song is called Lonely Bird, and it's on my album that released last year, which was this total experiment album. It's all electronic. It's got acoustic guitar on it. It has some songs that don't have guitar, but it's all like looped dance beats next to acoustic guitar. And I'm more proud of it now than I was when it came out. I was kind of done with it when it came out. I was like, this is not me. Like, I don't play this electronic kind of folk music, but it was a cool record. I think this song will get re-recorded for another project. Not super folk style, but we'll see. It's called Lonely Bird, and it's about autism. I am a mockingbird. I sing to you your words, master of mimicry. Fit into your world. I'll sing the way you want me to. I'll play the way you please. I'll toe the line as best I can. You should know it ain't easy. Can't really do it. I don't really want to. I know that I'm different than you. That is why I sing. I am alone up here, smaller than you think, like a parakeet. I'm fragile and I break. Sing the way you want me to. I play the way you please. I'll toe the line as best I can. You should know it ain't easy. I can't really do it. I don't really want to. I know that I'm different than you. That is why I sing. I'm a lonely bird, this I know for sure. Lonely my whole life, now I found a cure. I sing what I want to, I play how I please. I know what I've been through, I know it ain't easy, but I know I can do it, 'cause I've earned my wings. I know that I'm different than you. That is why I sing.
Man, that I related to every word of that. That was great, man.
Thanks.
You definitely have to come to the festival that I help represent, Inclusion Fest, which is a music festival geared for autistic people.
Oh man, is that PA?
Yeah, it's in PA, man. Out near kind of where they do the Peach Festival, but I'll definitely talk to the runner, Amy Piner. Like the music's turned down to a much lower decimal, so people like us can actually enjoy it without having to put our headphones on. And it would be really cool if you come out and perform, definitely.
I definitely would, man. And I go to PA. Like, that's one of the places I go to. Like, when I tour, I don't hit the East Coast up a lot, but I spent a lot of time in Virginia in my childhood too. So I play Harrisonburg, Virginia. I play Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and a lot of times I play Philly, you know. But definitely Lancaster. And so I come to PA on a regular basis, and I know that, and that would be an easy thing for me.
Yeah, I'll definitely
I'm on the other side of the country. It's actually kind of relatively easy.
Yeah, I'll definitely put you in contact with Amy, because I think we'll just absolutely love to absolutely love to have you at the festival.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, dude. That sounds amazing. One day I'm going to get you to come out to this festival that I'm associated with in New Mexico called Road to Riches, and it's this my buddy Rich, he's a Deadhead, sold T-shirts in the lot, you know, was on tour with Dead for a long time, and it's his birthday party, and it's huge. It's like 500, 600 people festival, and it's like I've played it almost 10. Like, this will be my 10th year this year. Of course, it's not happening in May. But dude, it's just like it's a tie-dye party. You know, there's like this huge area set up for tie-dyeing, and it's like all bluegrass bands, and like, you know, it's a front porch bluegrass music festival, and it is just.
Oh man, I would absolutely fucking love that.
I love it so much, dude. The jam circles that happen until like 4 o'clock in the morning and all that.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's pretty. Let's see. What did I want to do? Oh, this is what I want to do. So this next song is called "The Morning Singer," and it is available right now on Bandcamp. So if you go to russelljamesmusic.bandcamp.com, you can get this song fully realized. I released it in March with another tune. It's my favorite song I've written in the past year. It was the first song I wrote when I moved to Oregon last summer. It's called "The Morning Singer." Gravel road, early in the morning, walk alone in the dawning of the day. Only in the morning can I find the strength to sing. Beneath the weight of noise and light, I give my song its wings. Finally, I let it go, soar among the trees. Oh, quiet river, it feels like it's my own. Oh, misty water, these first light have thrown. Only in the morning can I find the strength to sing. Beneath the weight of noise and light, I give my song its wings. Finally, I let it go, soar among the trees. Hope still glimmers, makes me shiver. The morning singer is home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, that was perfect.
Hey,
Freebird.
thank you so much. And yeah, if anybody wants to check me out, you can go to russelljamesmusic.net. Find all the links to my Instagram and my Facebook and all my music. And I'm on iTunes. I'm on everything. Just look up Russell James. There's a couple of Russell Jameses. You'll tell the one that's me. The other one's like a hip hop artist from California who has one song. The other one's like a dance DJ from the UK. I'm the one who's not those people. So.
All right, Russell, thank you so much for coming on my show. We hope to have you again soon.
Yeah, man.
All right. All right, everyone. That was Russell James. Check out his music.
I appreciate
All right.
it.
This is Sam Heber signing off.